This is lesson 2, ratios of fractions and their unit rates. During the last workout, Izzy ran 2.5 miles in 15 minutes, and her friend Julia ran 3 3/4 miles in 25 minutes. Each girl thought she was the faster runner. Based on their last run, which girl is correct? Use any approach to find the solution. Well, we're going to create a table for each girl. So let's start out with Izzy. Well, with Izzy, the table is going to be a little easier, okay? And the reason it's going to be easier is because her minutes go by 15. So for miles and minutes, we can start off with 15 and 2 1/4, go to 30, just add on or multiply by 2 and keep multiplying, 30, 45, and go 60. And that would tell us how far she ran in an hour. So by doing that here, what we can do is take that 2 1/4, 2 and 1. Oh, got to turn this on first. 2 and 1/4, and then multiply it by 2 and hit equals. And that gives us 4 2/4, which is 4 1/2. And then we're going to add 2 1/4 to that. We don't want to multiply it by 2 because that would not make sense. So we actually want to add another 2 1/4 to that. So we could actually add 2 1/4 to it each time if we want. So I'm going to actually add 2 1/4 and hit equals. That's going to give me 6 3/4. And I'm going to add again. And that gives me 9. So here, Izzy actually ran 9 miles in an hour. Now for Julia, she's going to be a little harder because notice hers is 25 minutes. That's a little bit more difficult. But what we can do for Julia is we can actually fix her table so it looks like Izzy's. And how we can do that is we can actually divide and find the unit rate per minute for Julia. And the way we can do that is take 3 3/4 and divide that by 25. And that will give us how far that is per minute. So let's see what that will do for us. So we want 3 3/4 divided by 25. That's going to give us 15/100. We can actually simplify that by 5 and give us 3/20. Per minute. So now if we want to do that for every 15 minutes, well, actually that we can leave for a minute, but let's do that for each for 15. 15, 30, 45, and 60. So now we can multiply 3/20 times each of these numbers. So let's do that. So we're going to multiply 3/20 times 15 equals 2 and 1/4 times 30. Oh, notice the difference. Look at, they already match. So if we happen to multiply 3/20 again times 30, so 3/20 times 30, it's 4 and 10/20. So 4 and 1/2. Notice what's going to happen. We keep multiplying, I'm going to get 6 and 3/4, and I'm going to get 9. So Julia actually ran 9 miles per hour. So now, which girl is correct? Well, both. Because they ran at the same speed. I said, how can we use the tables produced to determine the unit rate? Well, we can divide by dividing the miles by the minutes. That says, what is the unit rate for each girl? The unit rate, remember, is just the number. So it is 9. Okay. So next. It says a turtle walks 7/8 of a mile in 50 minutes. What is the unit rate when the turtle's speed is expressed in miles per hour? To find the turtle's unit rate, Meredith wrote the following complex fraction. Explain how the fraction 5/6 was obtained. Well, 5/6 was obtained by showing (50/60), which is 50 minutes out of 60 minutes, and simplifying 2, 5/6. Next, it says determine the unit rate when the turtle's speed is expressed in miles per hour. Well, we have 7/8 divided by 5/6, which equals 7/8 divided by 5/6, which remember we do 7/8 times 6/5, which would equal 21/20, or 1 and 1/20. Or in this case, guys, you're allowed to use your calculators. So you would put in your calculators. So let me show you how to put it in your calculators. Okay. For those of you who have these types, you would put in 7/8, hit the arrow, divided by 5/6. Hit the arrow button and then hit enter. Okay. And it gives you the answer. Okay. And there you go. Okay. All right. Now for the next exercise, it says, for Anthony's birthday, his mother is making cupcakes for his 12 friends at daycare. The recipe calls for 3 1 cups of flour. The recipe makes 2½ dozen cupcakes. Anthony's mother has only 1 cup of flour. Is there enough flour for each of his friends to get a cupcake? Well, we have 2½ divided by 3 1/3. Okay. That's going to tell us how much flour they need for a dozen. Okay, remember, per dozen. Okay, this is cups of flour, or how many dozens they need. This is how many cups per dozen. Okay, this is how many cups you want per dozen. All right, here we go. So now, we have 2 1/2 divided by 3 1/3 equals. Now, the only thing that this calculator doesn't do that I like the other calculator with, oh, hang on here. Oh, there we go, to simplify. Okay, is 3/4. Okay, so 3/4 of a dozen for a cup of flour. So no, there is not enough. Next. So Sally is making a painting for which she is mixing red paint and blue paint. The table below shows the different mixtures being used. Okay. What is the unit rate for the values of the amount of blue paint and the amount of red paint? Well, here we have, for the blue paint, here we have 2.5 divided by 1 1/2. So that would be divided by 1 1/2 equals. And we need to simplify. 1 2/3. When we are trying to find out, it says, what is the unit rate? Our unit rate for something like this, okay, is always our right divided by our left, okay? This is our X column. This is our Y column, okay? Our unit rate is always our Y value divided by our X value, okay? That is what we always will do, okay? And I'll explain more of that when I come back on Monday, okay? So in this case, it says, describe in words what the unit rate means in the context of the problem. Well, what that means is Sally needs 1 2/3 quarts of blue paint for every quart of red paint. Again, how much for one? Okay, how much for one? And that ends our lesson.